Jocko Willnick was recently interviewed by Impact Theory on the Israel-Hamas war and what he would do if he were a Palestinian.
Hey, this is where we are right now. We can lash out over here or lash out over there, but where does that get us in the long run? Where does that get us strategically? And if it's not going to help us strategically, then we shouldn't be doing it. So that ties into what I would be saying to my people.
What would you do? Because here's the thing I think in reality you would run into. You have an implicit goal in that, which is I want everyone here to thrive. That's my goal. And so that's what I'm working towards. You're going to run up against people who their goal is to punish the enemy. What would you do when they understand your goal, they just don't buy into it? They have a totally different goal. How would you handle that?
Yeah. What's your long-term strategic goal look like? Because you're saying you want to hurt the enemy. What does that do? Where does that get us? Because we can go hurt the enemy tonight. And hey, we can go hurt the enemy on October 7th, right? That's exactly what they did. They hurt Israel badly. Where's it gotten them? So that's where it's getting people to think strategic instead of think tactically, and getting people to think with logic instead of think with their ego and their emotions, which is not easy. And you can't just say don't get emotional. You can't pull emotion and ego completely out of the calculus of your decision making, but you have to weight them a lot less. Because I've got people, same thing with the Israelis. The Israelis can't be like, hey, they attacked us, but we can't get emotional. We need to have a measured response. Like, no, it's like you have to put that emotion into the calculus. My wife and daughter and son were just murdered, and we need to do something about it now. Like, okay, we gotta take this. It's real. The emotion is real. So you got to put that in the calculus. At the same time, you also can't let emotions be the heaviest weight in your decision-making process. You can't let your country's ego be the biggest weight in your decision-making process. Does it have to have weight in there? Yeah. But it can't be the biggest weight that's now driving you to do things that don't make sense in a long-term strategic way.
To hurt and kill as many people as you can on your enemy's side, and that death for you is perfectly acceptable. There is no problem with that. In fact, it is simply the gateway to eternal paradise. That's where it gets tricky, and probably part of why this is so difficult to unwind, because in the emotion of they must be hurt, justice must be served, divine justice, and if I die in the service of that justice, that's fine. But when I think about whatever the solution is going to be, the solution is going to involve Palestinians believing that their kids have a bright future. And the second they don't believe they have a bright future, all hope is lost. Now, them believing that their children have a bright future, now that comes down to definition of bright future. And if bright future is being a martyr, that becomes more problematic. So anyway, I fully acknowledge that I'm thinking through this. I'm so early in my thought process. I do not have enough of the information, but I do think it's valuable for people to leave breadcrumbs about how they think through a problem. So yeah, very, very interesting.
The problem is the Palestinians are radicalized, as they brought up in the conversation, that Jocko Willnick, would be met with a lot of resistance if he just said, okay, guys, think about the long term. They're not able to think about the long term because they have it in their heads that they have to kill all the Jews. So until they get de-radicalized and organizations like UNRWA and the UN are defunded, we're still going to have this issue. Hamas is not just a terror organization. Hamas is a people. It's an ideology. Hamas represents over 70% of the Palestinian population.